It's Wizards versus Lesbians, a podcast for your ears. Hello and welcome to Wizards versus Lesbians. My name is Isaac.
I'm Alexis.
And today we are discussing Ryoko Ikeda's Oniisama E because it's our 125th episode. And every 25 episodes we do a cartoon. And we have guests today. Guests, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name's Katherine Hansen. I've historically done quite a bit of writing about yuri online, including Oniisama E. So it's fun to revisit it for this.
Amy would like to add that Katherine was at one point one of the top 5 yuri manga experts in America. And thank you for being with us.
I am Amy. I am a first-time watcher of Oniisama E, although I have a lot of history with yuri, anime, and manga, as well as Wizards.
Excellent. And I believe at this point, Alexis and I have both read the manga. I have watched about half of the anime.
I've watched a few episodes of the anime way back when I was in college.
Okay, I watched all 39 episodes for this podcast, so you better damn well appreciate it.
Amy, we appreciate you so much.
Yeah, and there are some interesting differences between the anime and the manga, which we'll get into. But
please enjoy my hot takes from 2025.
Excellent.
Thumbs up. It's generally tradition for our guests to give us a summary of the thing that we're discussing. So, Katherine, do you want to give us a summary of the manga Oniisama E?
Sure. Yeah, the manga and anime is, same basic premise, even though the anime expands on it quite a bit. Every girl, Nanako, attends the prestigious Seiron Girls' School. I guess it's technically Seiron Academy. And Seiron has, like so many anime, that basically the all-powerful student council type group. Here it's called the sorority. And girls every year vie very cutthroat competition to get into the sorority, basically. And Nanako is seemingly inexplicably chosen for it. That embroils her in the school politics.
That is true.
Yeah.
And she meets 2 very tall women.
Yes.
Who are kind of central to the plot. Well, actually 3 very tall women. I'm sorry. I left Miyasama out. She's also very important.
And there's a framing device where she has this older boy who she looks up to, who she has sort of declared to be her adopted big brother, and she is writing him letters about all of the drama that is going on.
It may be a theme going forward that we're going to forget to discuss the title character of this story. The Oniisama in Oniisama E. But we can get back to that. So, are there lesbians in this story?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there are. Are there wizards?
Yes. There is at least one.
I'm looking forward to the wizard pitch, which we tend to get. We either get a wizard pitch or a lesbian pitch, depending on whether the wizard or the lesbian is more metaphorical. But we'll circle around to that. I look forward to it. Having established that, why should you read or watch Oniisama E?
Yeah, it's very much an emotional roller coaster. It has a complex web of relationships that you'll want to see how they resolve, how they play out. It dangles a number of mysteries throughout about the characters that are fun to see unravel, and it's got a lot of queerness, so that's fun.
Do you want to watch or read The Great Gatsby, except Nick Carraway is like a high school lesbian?
It's a good succinct pitch.
Yeah, I like that very much. Alexis?
Well, aside from the massive historical importance of this, incredibly influential shoujo manga and anime, it's quite good. Like, it's this the manga, at least, is incredibly compact. It's 3 volumes, and it packs so much, like, emotional drama and plot twists into these 3 volumes. In this, of course, lovely, extremely classic, big sparkly eyes shoujo style. So I think if you're if you're into shoujo manga at all, I think this one's worth reading, or lesbian manga at all, like yuri manga at all.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's really influential. It's a fascinating time capsule. If you're at all interested in Utena, I think that you need to watch slash read Oniisama E because it's a huge amount of where Utena gets its visual DNA from, and is also something that Utena is actively commenting on. The anime particularly just is full of visual style that Utena just stole, essentially. And it's really interesting to see where that came from. Yeah, there's all of these giant, impossibly beautiful and stylish women roaming around the landscape for your enjoyment, if that's the sort of thing that you like. And why shouldn't you, however, read or watch Oniisama E? Catherine, same order.
Why shouldn't you? Well, in some aspects, it is of its time, as a 70s Yuri manga, adapted in 1991, pre-Sailor Moon. The the death trope, in so much queer media, it is present here, for example.
I'm kind of taken aback by this question. I'm like, why should you not watch or read it? I think it is. I'm trying to figure out how to describe this. There is a sense of heightened realism in it that might be off-putting, maybe. And I assume we will get into it. But for example, the fact that one of the main characters just casually just gets drugs and is on drugs, and you're like, what are the implications of that? How did she get that? But you sort of just are made to accept some key pieces of information that are profoundly unbelievable.
Well, you see, the world Oniisama E takes place in is a world where the rich can do whatever they want, whenever they want to do it. So, a fantasy, right? Alexis?
Well, content warnings galore. I mean, I think that's the real reason, is just that it's extremely intense, and it is dealing with a lot of things which we will get into in the content warning section. But like the manga is short, so it's not like you're wasting a lot of your time reading it. But it has a real emotional impact. And from what I recall, part of why I stopped watching the anime back in college was that I was a depressed college student who was watching depressing anime to feel to reinforce my dim view of the world. And I started watching this, and I was like, no, this is too dark.
That's pretty much what I was going to say, is that the problem that I have every time I reread this manga is that I have to get to the end. And we're definitely sort of, as Catherine said, recapitulating a bunch of, what were at the time safe cultural tropes.
Oh yeah, your gays absolutely get buried here.
We're retreating from all the exploration and sort of interesting, ideas that we put forward. We're going to our safe and comfortable spot, which is a bummer, and also a bunch of other stuff that happens is a bummer. So there is that to be contended with, but that is part and parcel of going back to media from 50 years ago. But no, but honestly, aside from that, it's just a classic, and probably you should read it because it's a classic.
It is very sad. But I have to admit that, as a person who, again, is watching this for the first time in 2025, and I kind of knew the plot points, another aspect of this is I am an adult now, and there are people who watch this when they're teenagers, and I will admit that as an adult, I basically, I kind of watched it and went oh man, this really reminds me of my teenhood.
Part of it is that, it's incredibly intense and heightened emotions and, all of this really messed up dynamics. And that is kind of what, being a teenager is not necessarily being at the elite girls' academy with the cutthroat sorority, but it is full of heightened emotions and, and sometimes bad things happening to people you care about. And so, yeah, content warning, adolescence.
Yeah, especially with how much the anime expends on the manga. It does add more characters who, try to commit suicide. So that's a big warning for people.
Oh, there's more suicide. Yeah, so content warnings. Suicide.
Yep, drugs, suicide, suicidal ideation, bullying.
A sisterly relationship which has some vaguely incestuous overtones.
Aspirational incest, which Ikuhara just picked up and ran with when it came time to take these tropes and bring them forward to Utena. But yeah, and like in the anime, like increasingly, like there's a kidnapping in the anime, like increasingly sort of melodramatic, twists on this stuff. But having said that, I think that we can move on to the spoiler zone and talk about this thing.
Yeah.
Spoiler zone. Catherine, do you want to lead us off since you're the expert in the field? Is there any angle that you want to approach this from? And if not, I can just start talking about stuff.
Sure. Let's see. To some extent, I am in dialogue with my past self reviewing this. Yeah, I guess even though the queer death trope is still it's still problematic. I guess I did this time think about how, like, with other 70s shoujo where the love interest dies, I kind of historically tended to roll with it a bit more. Well, with this one, like when I originally watched this, Oniisama E, I got so pissed off about Rei's death. And I think some of that is just because, with the length of this and the writing, the character writing quality, I just, I guess, got more attached to the characters in this one than other examples like Shirahei no Futari or Maya's funeral procession.
Rei's death was very upsetting, though I knew it was coming, just from because I knew the basic plot of the manga before I read it. But one of the things that I did think was interesting is that it has nothing to do with her queerness, really.
That's true.
Like, her suicide is because of her drug problems and her messed up family life, and I guess that is somewhat tied into her queerness. But like, I really thought it was interesting that it's framed as, from Nanako, because this is all from Nanako's perspective, and like from Nanako, it's framed as, my relationship with her, I thought it could save her, and it wasn't enough. And that's a very, especially for the time, I feel like that is like a very positive view of this lesbian relationship.
That's true.
It was the thing that could have, even though it wasn't enough to save her, it was the thing that might have, as opposed to the thing that dooms her.
Yeah, I did like Nanako and Fukiko as foils, as kind of the angel and devil on Rei's shoulder, respectively, with Nanako as the healthy queer option.
Yes.
Well, to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah, relatively.
Healthier.
Yeah, the healthiest available option. Nanako is the healthier option by default, as Fukiko is both her actual blood sister and evil. Yeah, no, one of the things that struck me about the tone of this book is that, like, Nanako is so gay. Like, Nanako is, like, for like a shoujo character from the 70s, like, never shows any romantic interest in men. Like, it doesn't even occur to her that her, like, wanting her older brother and the Oniisama E, aspect of the plot could be interpreted as romantic, even though everybody else immediately interprets it as romantic. Swoons whenever one of the very tall women so much as looks at her and is, like, very, explicitly in love with Asaka Rei, and who wouldn't be, as she strides down, like, the double page spread of the manga 11 feet tall in her bell bottoms, carrying her acoustic guitar and, with her, Angel of Death nickname, Saint Just-sama. I think that was one of the reasons why I was like, personally, why, this character's death affected me. It was like, you've constructed the coolest person who ever lived. If you are, tolerant of somebody who is, like, cosplaying as a French romantic poet, and of course you're going to die at the age of 17 if you're cosplaying as a French romantic poet, but
still, she's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no attempt to, like, take that away from Nanako afterwards, right? Like, she doesn't get a sort of a compat love interest even though Shinobu does. She gets she gets to sort of live with her grief and to consider it. Although because of the breakneck pacing of the third volume of the manga, she gets to live with her grief for like a couple of pages and then the story ends. But it doesn't feel like a cut and dried rehashing of that trope, even though it sort of follows the same lines on paper.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to say about Nanako, and this is something, again, like, this is very much like an adult looking back on teenhood lens. I realized after watching it that there is kind of an interesting bit in which she looks at Mariko, who is the kind of like super intense girlfriend who ends up being, she ends up being really close to later in the series.
Mm-hmm. BPD buddy.
That, yeah, so she kind of sees Mariko having like this intense girl crush on Kaoru, basically. Mm-hmm. And then Nanako says like, "Oh yeah, I'm really admiring those feelings." But then later she has these feelings that end up being kind of queer for Sanjus, and like in retrospect, I'm just like, "Oh, that's very familiar in from the perspective of like if you are like a teen or like post-teen college age girl and you are watching like your peers have like girl crushes on other girls, and you're like, oh yeah, this feeling I have in the pre-Obergefell era is very much like that. And then later you realize, oh, actually, no, this is a different thing, and I did not quite understand.
Yes, no, that is true. That sort of watching Nanako develop this sense of, oh, my girl crushes are different from, like, my girl crushes are gay. And some of the, versus most of the girls in my class who are just all sparkly eyed over, I'm just going to steal Isaac's phrasing of the very tall women, are not the same. But also like the idea that at first she she sees Mariko's, girl crush and goes, oh, what a great way to be, crushing on another girl.
Yes, it's aspirational even at that point.
You just reminded me actually of Nanako reacting to the anime only bit where they talk about the story of the two senpai who committed double suicide, and Nanako kind of reacting to the trope, being like, why did they have to die? Yeah.
And like, Kaoru no Kimi, who we haven't mentioned yet, who is so there are two species of girls at this academy. They're the normal girls and the very tall girls. And the sorority is mostly made up of the very tall girls, but we have some very tall girls who are outside the sorority, including Kaoru no Kimi, the basketball star, who is the butch of the school, along with Sanjus, and the prince of the school, and sort of unforgivably ends up having a doomed crush on this terrible, terrible boy. But she is essentially the dispenser.
She marries the boy.
She marries the boy. In the anime, they have a kid, but up until that point, she is sort of she dispenses wisdom. She has seen a bunch of kids come through the school dealing with their girl crushes in one way or another. Crushes on her, crushes on Saint Just, crushes in general, and what she says to them is like, no, the gender isn't an issue at all. Like the problem with your frustrated crush on me, Shinobu, is that I won't be able to reciprocate for you. Your problem with your frustrated crush on Asaka Rei is that she's Asaka Rei and she's going to die. And also she's in love with her sister and can't really register the humanity of anybody. It's not, the gender is not the heart of that. These are the feelings. And in the anime, which the anime is a little bit more conservative than the manga.
Oh, interesting.
It has a little more room to ruminate and let these themes develop. It's not any less gay.
That's good.
No. Nanako is, if anything, even more gay.
It is more gay. It uses the stylistic kind of toolkit of animation reuse to let you sit with Nanako's gayness.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And sift through her memories of like Sanjust and all of her feelings.
We since there's 3 whole volumes of manga to turn into 3 whole cores of anime, we get to really cherry pick bits and expand them. And like Nanako's hunting Asuka's cigarette butts and keeping them in a little handkerchief, which is something that the manga implies, but the anime really leans into for multiple episodes.
Amazing.
It's all there, but it also, when Kaoru delivers that speech in the anime, it's more focusing on the ephemerality of young love. Like, it comes and it goes. It's like the foam on the sea. And even though that's present in the manga, I feel like the point of the speech in the manga is much more about,
love is love.
Love is love, exactly. And so 6 of one, half dozen the other. But even though at the end of the anime, Nanako says, "Oh, I have a new special person," it does not specify what kind of special person that is, which I appreciated. Finally, we can segue to talking about wizards. But also, in following this conversation, it may be helpful to note that all the tall girls have more than one name, because they're simply too large for one name to contain them. Asaka Rei is Sanju-sama, Fukiko is Miya-sama, and Kaoru no Kimi's real name is actually Kaoru, which, in my opinion, fits in with the theme of injured femininity that surrounds her, since she only gets half a superlative, but more on that later.
Okay, so to completely change tracks, Amy, I want to know who you think the wizard is.
Oh, Fukiko is a wizard. Well, she's actually a witch. Specifically, here's what she was doing. She has constructed an adolescent mythology, right? Which is a kind of magic. Yeah? Mm-hmm. It is a method of establishing power and class in a way that is like, really has no basis in anything except for like school traditions and also like her charisma, fundamentally. And so there is a fairy tale aspect to the sorority, joining the sorority, that lets her weave a sort of spell over the entire student body.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I totally buy that.
She's totally proto-Akio, although she has Juri's hair. This sort of reminds me of one of the sort of divergent things that the Utena sort of picks up and focuses on, but is still present in Oniisama E, which is that even though we have our student council at the girls' school, which is ruled by this, wizard girl, like all of the traumas that create all of the sort of giant ructions that destroy people's lives within the school are ultimately caused by everybody's fathers.
Oh yeah, this series is littered with like emotionally constipated fathers who remind us that the bar is in hell for dads, relatively speaking. Like Takahiko's dad, this is more, in the more of a thing in the anime, but like I posit that Professor Misono is the real villain, where he just he's just like, I imagine Takahiko's mother all those years working hard to raise him, while Professor Misono like just does diddly squat, and then at the end it's like, oh, Takahiko turned out great and now he wants a relationship with you again and everything's great.
Yes.
And they get to have their like one scene together where they manfully don't express any of the emotions.
Right.
But they just walk away with the mutual understanding that everything is fine now, which is certainly a view of masculinity that this that this manga and anime have.
The way that men say "I love you" is they just say "ganbare," and that's pretty much it.
Yes. I'm glad you graduated college and are going to Germany, so I don't have to have this conversation with you again because you're going to be in Germany, and there we go.
But Catherine is right that he's definitely not, that he only even shows that kind of manful ganbare interest because Takahiko turned out well. Yeah. Like, even though he did absolutely nothing.
Meanwhile, like, both in the anime, or rather in the manga, the very first thing that he does is like looks at his daughter and is like, "Yes, you're looking cute and attractive today. Excellent. Go to school." It's like we're reminded from the very get-go that like the whole purpose of this academy, the whole purpose of the system is to, create these society women who are decorative, and that this is reified in the home within the system, and the system's brutality sort of evolves from the expectations that are being put on it by both the dads and by the sort of board of directors of the school, who are of course all men and who are brought in every once in a while, and
when there's some sort of scandal.
Yeah, and all of the sort of the heartbreaking stuff about, are we real siblings? Are we fake siblings? Can we be in love? Comes from the failure of the dads to create stable relationships among these girls, and failure to tell the truth about these girls and their families and their relationships for their own convenience.
I'm going to go back a little bit to this. I think earlier I pitched this as like the Great Gatsby, right? Because I think what ends up happening is that this series is about a whole bunch of people who are stuck in the past as a result of choices made by their families and choices they have continued to make.
Utena again, oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. And you can kind of see this in like Fukiko really cares about a romance that she had when she was 12 for a week.
Yep.
And it's just been consuming like her entire soul for like 6 years, which like I think when you are 18, the idea that something that, a week when you are 12 is still a big deal is like very unusual.
And that was a third of your life ago.
Yes. And then there's Sanjust, who, like, she is also consumed by the suicide pact that did not succeed with her half-sister.
The suicide pact she was tricked into.
Yes, yes.
Her half-sister never intended to commit suicide.
Her half-sister, who turns out to be her real sister. And then there's the Kaoru's theme is kind of about how she has this future that she wants to have that she can't have because of her her medical issues. And so there's definitely this theme of like being caught up in the past or the present and like not having a future or trying to figure out what the future ought to be. And that ends up kind of playing out later with the events that involve the dismantling of the sorority.
Yeah, there are like multiple sets of foils here with like I mentioned before, Nanako versus Fukiko vis-a-vis Rei, Kaoru and Rei, as far as like Kaoru desperately wanting to live and Rei having a death wish. And also kind of Kaoru and Fukiko vis-a-vis their relationship with Takehiko, where Fukiko has like this kind of bizarre obsession with like this trivial 1 week time spent with Takehiko when she was 12, while Kaoru has like, real stuff going on with, her cancer storyline.
Yeah, it's about early wounds and the way that they play into Arrested Development and obsession and recapitulating these narratives over and over again. It's our old friend Perseveration.
And I mean, also Takehiko, part of why his relationship with Nanako is so weird because he knows that Nanako is, the daughter of, stepdaughter, is his blood father's stepdaughter. Nanako doesn't know this, and he like remembers meeting Nanako when she was little, and Nanako doesn't remember this. And so when Nanako is like, "Hey, can we be pen pals? I want a big brother," and he's like, "Okay, sure." It's a very, he's sort of getting to play out this complicated relationship with his own father, and Nanako has no idea that it's going on.
Okay, I want to talk about this whole framing device actually, because that is something where I was just like, I can't believe this is happening, right? So, like, Nanako is experiencing all these events, and she is writing all this stuff in letters to her quote-unquote big brother, who, of course, turns out to be her real big brother. And then she keeps encountering him and all that stuff, but, like, presumably he is reading these letters, right? Which is about all these people he knew.
And he's not revealing any of it. Like
And you would think he would do something.
No. That's not a man's job. Man's job is to be reticent emotionally and to not, and not to break the bro code by revealing other people's secrets.
And I was like, does he send her letters back? He sends her at least one letter back. And then he sends another at the end, which I think is just like, here's a photo of me and my child.
Except in the manga, he sends a letter back being like, yeah, so my wife, who was your friend, is now dead of cancer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no, I think that you're absolutely right. And I mean, that's why I say that he's like terrible. And there's very little of him in the manga. There's so much more of the boys in the anime, which is why I might recommend reading the manga more than I might recommend watching the anime. It gets really...
I gotta admit, as an anime-only watcher, I was like, well, these are relatively reasonable dudes surrounded by very emotional women, and that was like a very surprising reaction, because there's all this drama happening, and then the dudes are just sort of like, I guess there's drama happening, huh? Well...
But the thing is that the dudes are aware of all the drama and are not...
Yes,
like,
they aren't doing anything.
Right, they aren't doing anything. They're not even doing things like being like, oh, Kaoru, funny, she and I used to date. Like, that would be useful information for Nanako, actually.
There are a lot of reveals that are the result of people simply not talking to each other.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think this is partially just like soap opera rules,
Yeah.
Melodrama rules.
Like, obviously, this would be way less... this would be a much less interesting story if everybody went to therapy. But still...
I did turn to Catherine and say, like, this absolutely feels like a telenovela.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I think this is a universal cultural thing, is the telenovela and the desire to just have as many, increasingly wacky and deniably incestuous reveals that you can, cram into a narrative as it goes. I did want to mention that I think that like one of the central themes of Oniisama E is like, what is a real relationship? And part of this is the sibling relationships, because we have a bunch of these pairs of people who are siblings but not really, or who don't know they're siblings, or who are step siblings, or who think they're half siblings but are real siblings. And these the sort of the ambiguity in these connections always creates this sort of heightening obsessive quality where you become focused on a particular event and you just need to solve the riddle of what's going on. And I think that there's an analogy being made to the sort of romantic relationships, both in terms of like them being high school relationships and also in terms of them being lesbian relationships, because the story is interested in asking like, okay, this relationship isn't, real in the way that society would want to frame it. Like, these aren't straightforward siblings. These aren't straightforward lovers. There's been a hitch here. There's something that's not being accepted and the truth cannot be told about. And in what ways does that affect? Does that mean it's fake? Does that mean it's sick? And I think that one of the things about the narrative that I really appreciate is that it answers the question carefully and differently under each set of circumstances. And it's like the connection between Nanako and her brother, even though they are not actually blood relatives, ends up being like very important and stable and, genuine for her. And that, her romantic love for Asaka is treated with the dignity of romantic love and is, despite it being doomed, but it doesn't kill her. And then we get these sort of variations on the theme as we go forward with it, and we sort of see like that there are cracks where the sort of the harm and the dysfunctionality get in, but it's not inherent to them being outside of societal expectations. This is something that, develops in a particular way for every person, and we also get the melodrama high off of it all. But we're being more careful than we might otherwise be. And that was the end of that sentence. Oh my god, we finally get to talk about Rose of Versailles, which means I finally get to do this. Watashi wa bara no sadame ni umareta. Hanayaka ni hageshiku ikeru to umareta. Bara wa kidake kusaite. Bara wa utsukushiku chiru. I refuse to apologize.
I was just going to say, I know we've made comparisons to Utena. I don't think we haven't really touched yet on the thematic echoes between Oniisama and Rose of Versailles, and they even share a director. So
yeah,
and a writer.
Yeah.
And
just interesting how Oniisama has kind of a microcosm of a similar societal upheaval. With the sorority being overthrown.
And you have a Saint Just in both too.
Yeah. and it, the series draws some visual echoes too, with Fukiko's bow at the last sorority tea, echoing how Marie Antoinette bows when, the French regime is toppling.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, Ikeda Ryoko is clearly really interested in this sort of doomed hothouse environment.
That would make Kaoru Oscar, because she's the one who eventually, breaks down the sorority. And like Oscar, like Kaoru has this vexed relationship with her own femininity. I feel like Kaoru's breast cancer is like a very much, something has been injured about this character's ability to be a woman, in a real sort of dumb, this is a giant metaphor kind of a way. And obviously Oscar's similar, sort of insistence that she wants to, sort of act, that she doesn't want to give up her femininity despite the way that she's been slated into this, into the male role, the prince in Kaoru's terms of her, of the society that she is living in is a very direct, similarity there. And also, we had the chambermaid who was hopelessly in love with Oscar in
right.
Rose of Versailles, which is sort of the role that Shinobu and Nanako end up in. But we're much more interested in Nanako and her perspective here
than we were in Rosalie.
Than we were in Rosalie. Because
so I don't know. Rosalie's the one who gets to survive to the end and live with her grief in the same sort of way. So
yes, I suppose you're right. No, these are exactly the same story. No,
I don't know about exactly, but you really can see how sort of Utena is drawing on both. Like, it's getting a lot of its aesthetics with the swords and the uniforms from Rose of Versailles, but in both cases, it is about like what happens when you're trapped in this bubble where all you have is, whether it's the French court or the girls' school, where just all you have is this self-reinforcing toxic dynamics.
We could also probably mention the Takarazuka influence here. The Takarazuka Review, and not Takarazuke as I keep calling it, was a theater company founded in Japan in 1913 by a railroad baron who wanted to spice up the tourist industry in the little hot spring town of Takarazuka that lay at the end of one of his railroad lines. He decided it should be an all-female song and dance number thing, like the Rockettes would be when they were founded 12 years later, but the Takarazuka Review put on plays too, and the male parts needed to be played by someone, so they had women playing the male parts, and so they had to develop stars who specialized in playing those parts, and thus, from this little tourist town, a storm of gender was unleashed that has not diminished to this day.
Yes.
I'm very sad that I cannot look up the songs that Ray plays on her guitar in the, and this is possibly just because I'm not good at researching things in Japanese from over 50 years ago. But I so want to provide a cover of at least one of those songs, and I'm not going to be able to do so. But the Takarazuka is mentioned in like the first couple of pages of the manga, and Ray sings popular songs from there, and that is, you know, we are still getting sort of Utena like or Madoka like or this like, you know, sort of spins on Takarazuka in anime with like Starlight Review, which came out like relatively recently at this point.
Rei also kind of dresses like a Takarazuka, otokoyaku, and she has this outfit that seems to never change, which honestly makes me wonder if she has more than one outfit, which is essentially like this pirate shirt and like a suit jacket and pants. And she has a really theatrical way that she carries herself, which yes is very much like like I am a smoking French poet who has very dark Byronic thoughts, and therefore that makes me attractive feeling about her. And I think that you can definitely see that Otoyaku influence in her.
Yes, she does have a little bit more wardrobe variation in the manga, but it's all the same style of look at me, I'm cosplaying.
I was very surprised when it
French
showed
poet.
her having when it showed her taking a shower, and I was like, wow, she showers. Wow, I would not have thought that, given that she wears the same outfit every day and is depressed and is taking drugs.
That does not happen in the manga. That is not canon.
Yeah, she and
It smells amazing. Anyway, yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, she and Kaoru are both very much like the girl prince archetype, and yeah, definitely Byronic versus I guess a more wholesome
In different ways, which
prince.
is interesting.
And yeah, as for I guess like you said, there's a lot less diversity in Rei's outfits in the anime, which makes it so noteworthy when she puts on that white suit to go meet Nanako for her, doomed attempt to show her the sunset. And it actually
That's actually one thing that I think is kind of worth digging into, which is like the use of fashion in Oniisama, which in particular in the show, it's very notable in a couple of ways, right? So one of them is the one that you mentioned, which is like she changes to a white suit to indicate that she has had like a radical change. And Sanjust is like, oh, now I am emerging out of my shell. But that it's also used in a couple different cases, such as, for example, Mariko, who, to remind everyone, is the super intense emotional friend who's like...
Yeah, I want to talk about Mariko next, but
Yeah, but like she has a very purple wardrobe, and she wears purple all the time, except when something bad is happening in her life, in which case she sort of loses color from her wardrobe, and she starts wearing grays and things like that. And there are a couple other areas where I think fashion is used to tell a message.
Absolutely. I think one of the actual pleasures of reading the manga and then watching the anime is the sort of painstaking way in which the anime updates the 70s fashions of the manga to the late 80s, early 90s fashions that you see in the anime. Particularly the horrible, horrible white suit jacket that they give Miyasama's older brother.
I did not know this. I actually, this kind of makes me want to read the manga just for the fashion.
Oh, you should.
oh, you absolutely should. It's only 3 volumes, Amy. You absolutely should. Like it'll you can do it in an afternoon.
Like when I watched the anime, because Catherine and I had gone thrift store shopping in Tokyo, and when I watched the anime, I was like, wait, that's all the stuff from the thrift store. That is just all the stuff that's in the old part of town. That's hip now.
But Saint Just's default outfit is the same. You can't, even though in the manga she also wears like very cool, bell bottoms and.
I mean, when I went to high school with a guy who dressed exactly like that.
Yes.
Except that he wore a beret.
It's a timeless Oh God, yes, it's
Yeah.
It's a timeless fashion. The other thing is that when about Mariko is that when she's in color, you really do understand that she's just Veronica from the Archie comics, who's been who's been transported in, which does not come through quite as clearly in the manga. But
So can we talk about Mariko?
wow,
Yeah.
the hot mess.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, in the manga, and from what I vaguely recall from like 20 years ago in the anime, like she's really what kicks off the whole like Nanako's entry into the toxic spiral. I mean, yes, Nanako does get inducted into the sorority, but even before that, like Mariko is isolating her from all of her friends and introducing her to all the cool girls, and has really just like decided that this is her new obsession. Poor Nanako.
Yeah.
Incidentally, like the single most like consequential difference between the anime and the manga is that in the anime, the relationship between Tomoko and Nanako that Mariko sabotages is repaired, and in the manga it's not. Tomoko is just your Wakaba, like normal best friend character, and is like it's super important that she's around.
Tomoko is my favorite character.
Exactly.
She's the best.
I'm afraid that she does not get a good time in the manga, so that may be one reason not to read the manga.
We also notice like Tomoko gets a surprisingly large amount of sakuga, like these bursts of really detailed animation, like more than Nanako.
Well, the animators love Tomoko. They love her licking ice cream or whatever it is
Riding a bike.
Doing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she represents this sort of normal life that Nanako could absolutely be having if she wasn't getting sucked into all of this drama. She could, Nanako also could be riding a bike and licking ice cream and, giggling with her best friend.
Yeah, but getting back to Mariko, right? Like she rolls in, and then like I don't think Nanako thought she wanted to be a part of the sorority, but Mariko wants to be part of the sorority, and Mariko somehow come to the conclusion that she wants Nanako to be her friend, which I honestly, I still do not quite understand how she came to that conclusion. But then she engineers...
I think she had a crush. I think she was like, this girl is cute, and I want, like, I'm not sure if it was necessarily a romantic crush or just like this, but I mean, like, we know that Nanako is really cute because she gets compared to a doll.
I did think, I was thinking it was girl crush feeling at the beginning, and there is a moment in which, like, Mariko invites her over to her house and then like locks her in her room, and when that episode preview came up I was just like, is this going where I think it's going? And it was not, but I was thinking it.
Right. Well, the thing is that I feel like that is kind of what is going on with Mariko. One of the many things that are going on with Mariko is that she does have this sort of crush on Nanako because Nanako, I think, is just this sort of sweet, pretty girl who, looks cute next to her, and she thinks, oh, we can have this like great, slightly romantic, best friendship. And then Mariko just sort of spirals out. And well, Nanako can't keep up. She doesn't, so that when Mariko is like threatening suicide or whatever, and Nanako is just extremely confused.
Let me.
I think that part of that. Yeah.
Let me give you an alternate take here. I think that the reason that Mariko zooms in on Nanako is that Nanako is a new girl who does not know about her dad.
Oh, that's true. Who does not know that her dad is writing porn.
Because Nanako is not connected to any of the... I mean, that's the whole point, is that she's not connected to any of these big families or any of the big gossip networks. She has no idea what she's getting into when she goes to Seiran. And also she's like, low status enough that she's not going to think that Mariko is beneath her, which, is something that is just happening in Mariko's head. But I think that like jibes with the, I have no friends. And I am so angry and sad about having no friends that I will A, stab a motherfucker, and B, when my one friend wants to go home, I will kidnap her.
I gotta tell you, the whole Mariko Nanako thing was very, honestly, that is like one of the most authentic things in the anime to me.
Yeah, no,
like,
I agree.
Their entire relationship, the entire like thing where Mariko's like, I have no friends, but maybe I can make a friend. I can invent a friend out of whole cloth. Here's my plan to do that. Like that is very like real high school type stuff, right?
Yes. No, and I do think you're right that Mariko looks at Nanako and goes, "Oh, you would be the perfect." I'm not even sure if it's partly friend, but I think it's partly like you would be my perfect sidekick.
It's Poupée-chan again, you know? It's
Exactly, it's Poupée-chan, the little
like
doll.
Asaka and Mariko, as much as Rei like looks at Nanako and is like, "Oh, this person could slot into my narrative in a very particular way and can be used by me in a very particular way." Um, but then it does, particularly in the anime, like develop into a genuine friendship. At least in Mariko's case, uh, not so much in Rei's
And it
case.
feels, I think, yeah, I mean, I think even in the manga, actually, because, I mean, it's not, I think, as close, there's not space in the manga for them to develop as close a friendship, but they seem to be on fairly good terms by the time that Mariko comes back to school. And admittedly, part of that seems to be that now, like, now that Mariko has a boyfriend, she's kind of not, she's suddenly been made safe.
There is that. I think that like also Mariko pretty much gets the character arc out of all the characters in this story is that she actually learns, grows, and changes a little bit because she actually gets a sort of a social group after years upon years of complete social isolation, which makes sense. You know, that's she's catching up, and you feel a lot of sympathy towards her. Like this is also true of her like misandry bit, which again gets much more attention in the anime. But her like all men are they only care about one thing, and you shouldn't go anywhere that is dark or within an isolated environment with them. You definitely shouldn't go see the instrumental jazz funk combo at the student fair, which killed me in the anime. They're going to a cool rock show, and it's we're going to play tasteful instrumental jazz for you, and you're all going to be seated. And it's 1989, and it's
The
Japan.
temptations of jazz cannot be resisted.
Right, but so what do we think about like Mariko's romance though? Her, yeah. Well, I think it is interesting that is like it's just weird that is the thing that fixes her with is this guy who's kind of an asshole.
Well, I guess that's where the anime is an improvement because in the anime it's more a focus on her and Nanako and Tomoko as a group after she and Nanako reconcile, and that's actually kind of a fun dynamic.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a much better plot.
Yeah, I mean,
As opposed to just, here's a guy who finds her misandry cute. Great, now we don't have to worry about her anymore. She's somebody else's problem.
She does still like he does still show up and spend some time with her and I guess find her misandry cute, but it doesn't that doesn't become the focus of her storyline. It is much more focused on her friendships.
That's an improvement. That is a reason to watch the anime instead of the manga. Or, both. But,
I can't also I gotta say like just I know that I already talked up the anime in the intro, but like it's so much prettier than it needs to be. Like and as you mentioned, it's the same as Catherine mentioned, it's the same director from the Rose of Versailles anime, like
which is
20
exactly
20
as
years
pretty
ago.
as it needs to be. Well, if the Rose of Versailles anime is exactly as pretty as it needs to be, and that is extremely pretty.
Yeah, but we've like okay, we have this very beautiful manga, but what if I just filled this school with giant abstract stained glass windows that weren't there in the manga? What if I did that? Like what if every angle was Dutch? What if we are absolutely in love with the Tokyo River or the Sumida River, which is what it's actually called? What if there's water everywhere? What if there's light through water everywhere? What if everything is in like these beautiful pools of light and shadow at all times, and I can do this because I want to, and it's very nice to look at.
One thing they do that's very, I think, very artistic and beautiful is that they set up the anime so that there are these kind of like colored pencil sketches of like major scenes, and then they will sort of cut from like the animation to like this drawing, which really contributes to the dreamlike atmosphere of the entire story
And saves money.
And when
It does save money.
Right. Well, but the thing is, there's a lot of different ways of saving money in anime, and there's definitely the more artistic approach, which this one definitely takes. I even do remember that from like the episodes that I watched when it was so long ago that I think I was downloading them on and watching them on Real Player.
It is very pretty, except for any scene involving horses.
There's not very much. There's no horses in the manga, or at least if there are, there's not very many.
Oh yeah, in the anime, Miyasama's equestrian hobby.
Amazing.
Yeah. She spends a lot of time riding around. No, it has a problem with animals generally. During the sort of climactic scene during their date at the park where where Asuka Rei, casually asphyxiates Nanako in a slightly horny way to teach her a lesson about smoking. After that's done, a duck takes off from the pond to symbolize an awakening, and it's the weirdest duck I've ever seen. It is not even slightly a duck. It is identified as a duck. It's not a duck. I don't know. Maybe these are animals in the same way that like the tall women are women. It's an abstraction.
This is why there are some girls at the school who are like half again as tall as our main character, and there's
at least. I'm developing a theory that there's an internal sexual dimorphism among the women in this school, but not along traditional gender lines. The tall women have access to a hyper-femininity in the context of the sorority, but also a sort of hyper-masculinity for those outside the sorority. The point is heightening, which is appropriate for the tall women. There is a trans reading to be had here. It's not necessarily in the text, but you're always welcome to it. I mean, they do all play basketball.
Oh, that's true.
Except Miyasama, who rides horses.
Okay, I just want to say, it is completely unbelievable that Sanchez would be good at basketball. There's just, there's no chance. Speaking as a person who, identifies as, an effete, tall, fae-like, lesbian, there's no way Sanchez is good at basketball. No way.
especially not given all the drugs she's on and all the smoking she does.
Yes. No way. That is the most unbelievable thing to me. That she is good at basketball and better than Kaoru.
No, Sanjust is just the perfect human being.
Except for all the drugs she does.
No, that's part of it. That's part of it. No, she's the youthful, doomed hero. She's got to be like that, and she can't last because she's too perfect for this world.
I'd like to talk about Nanako, if we can do that.
Let's.
Her whole journey, which I think ties into the story of the other three, I guess I'll call them leads, and also the direction of the sorority in the school. In particular, Nanako kind of starts off as let's say an ordinary teenager who she really just wants to be texting people. I really think that's what she wants to be doing, but instead she is just writing all these letters.
Well, she was doomed to be born to have come of age before the cell phone.
Yes, but she's just very earnest and one might say naive, and so she gets kind of exploited, and my notes say here easily bamboozled throughout the early parts of the show, and people will use her for things or manipulate her into doing something. Mariko is manipulating her, and then Mia is manipulating her, and so that kind of is I almost want to say the first 2/3 of the show. And there are a lot of scenes in which she gets manipulated into being in a room with someone, and then they lock the door. Now she's trapped with them, and she did not, have the foresight to realize that maybe these were bad people doing bad things. But then later, I think there's sort of a pivot into her establishing more of a sense of agency and her kind of coming into her own, especially when Kaoru sets up this sorority deconstructing event where she petitions the student council and the school to dismantle the sorority, and Nanako kind of like takes an active role in getting the signatures for that. And also, even though she still gets trapped in rooms with people, now she's figured out to call someone ahead of time.
Oh, yes.
Well, good for her. I don't think she's quite as active. Actually, I can't remember.
She does gather signatures.
No, you're right. She does gather signatures. It's just that, again, the manga's so compressed that it's a sort of blink and you miss it.
Yeah, in the anime, signature gatherings like 3 whole episodes interspersed with other events, and you really get this sense that like she's like driving this whole thing.
Well, I mean, she really does. I think that's where her outsider perspective comes in handy, because she didn't really want to join the sorority in the first place. And in fact, when they're like, okay, you have to choose between your Oniisama, between like your pen pal guy and the sorority, she's like, I'm happy. I'll leave.
Yeah, no, the anime has more room for character arcs, and like Nanako learning to, not be a different person, because clearly she is still both personally and sexually fated to be the person who is trapped in a room by a conniving woman, is like she I think that it's actually her sort of the hinge point is her coming to terms with the fact that she's in love with Ray. That's probably where she starts to develop into this more confident and more self-actualized person, which is not bad. Because I think in the manga it is more like, being asked to give up her relationship with her brother is more the hinge point. And so I kind of like the way that the anime treats that a little bit better.
Yeah, though I do think that even in the manga, like, her relationship with Ray is this, I mean, it's traumatic when Ray dies, but like her relationship with Ray and up until then is, I think, a fairly good, like drives some personal growth for her.
Oh, definitely. All right, we're getting near the end of our time here. Does anybody have any notes that they weren't able to sneak in that they'd like to talk about? Here are a couple of random notes that didn't make it into the actual podcast. From Alexis, they prefer the ending where both Kaoru and Sanjus die because it feels more fair. And not just burying gays, but burying straights too. Oh, and Amy once mentioned that we didn't actually discuss the scene where Asuka keeps throwing knives into the silhouette of Miyasama that she has carved into the wall, right in the heart every time, and how she gets like a different number of spins every time, which is, very impressive or possibly unrealistic. And Amy would like to say about learning to throw knives, everyone starts out bad and then they get some wounds.
I liked that they end on abolishing the sorority. Like, much like in Utena, they just leave. But I do also like, no, we're stuck in this school, but we're going to dismantle the power.
I actually have something I want to say about that, which is, I personally have been thinking a lot about what feels like a good redemption arc, right? Because like we are in an era in which like redemption arcs sometimes can feel like they ring very hollow. But I think this show, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, does it well, because Zuko is of course the canonical redemption arc. But why is it a good redemption arc? And my thesis is, a good redemption arc requires the person to not only realize that they were wrong, but also actively dismantle the system that caused them to go in the wrong direction. And I think that the entire bit with the dismantling the sorority is like a whole series of people who eventually come around to having their own mini or maxi redemption arcs in which they realize, oh, I need to dismantle the system that caused me to do the wrong thing. And the fact that there's, especially in the anime, like so many people having this realization over the course of multiple episodes, that was very powerful for me.
Yeah, especially like Misaki Aya, it gave her an arc of, after bullying Nanako so long, and also Mariko over them getting to the sorority, that's how she redeems herself, with that arc, the signature gathering. Tomoko even gets an arc. She didn't really do anything wrong over the course of the series, but she kind of always wanted to be passive, fade into the background, and she decides to take an active role in gathering signatures.
Yeah, so I guess it's an opportunity it's an opportunity for these good redemption arcs, but also for somebody like Tomoko, it's just a good chance for character growth. Yes, dismantling the system, it turns out, good for everyone.
Oh, yes. Dismantling the most visible and accessible parts of the system. We're not challenging the dads yet.
We're not challenging the dads or the entire class system of Japan or
I'm just imagining like the world in which like there's a petition to just dismantle fatherhood. And then everyone at the school's like, I'll sign up.
Well, though, you've got these girls who have now learned that they are capable of taking on this institution and dismantling it, and also that have learned that maybe their dads aren't perfect. So who knows? Maybe in the future they will be able to make better choices than their parents did. Though I think a lot of the moms' choices throughout are less a matter of, most of the moms' choices seem to be survival driven.
Yeah. No, when we see the moms, it's generally like a lot of sorrow at the way that things had to be.
Yeah. It's like Mariko's mom just kind of trying to hold everything together while, the dad is screwing around cheating.
We never even see him.
Yeah. But also like Nanako's mom. I mean, she's a single mother working as a waitress. And yeah, sure. Like, marry the asshole if it will get your daughter into a good high school.
Yeah.
Actually, Catherine, I have a question for you because you said that, you were sort of, this was revisiting your younger self as much as revisiting the manga. What, in terms of your experience of the manga, has changed the most? But, just, is there anything that sort of stood out to you as when you're revisiting that, now you have a very different perspective on?
Well, I guess the more flippant answer would be I had the luxury to notice things I didn't notice before, like Kaoru's eyes pointing in different directions in one scene. But I guess otherwise it would just be, it was interesting coming back to kind of, like I mentioned, originally I was more upset by the love interest death. And I think part of, I guess, why I was able to just kind of take it for what it is, for what it was at the time, for what it did well compared to other, similar examples from the 70s. I guess part of my reaction now is tempered by having just more queer, happy, media examples.
Something I think you, especially, Catherine, are well equipped to answer is, what do you think is the legacy of Oniisama E today?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well, as y'all mentioned, big influence on Utena, on also Maria-sama ga Michiru, which, despite it kind of brought the girls' school class S tropes into the 21st century, and really, it didn't originate them, but it popularized them. It used to be that we were getting a million gajillion imitators of Maria-sama ga Michiru, and it's a direct descendant of Oniisama. So Oniisama is like a very, very distinguished grandmother of Yuri, as we know it today.
Which is one reason why it's worth going back and seeing how things got this way.
Absolutely.
In addition to this just being a really good piece of art.
Yeah, it's just a ripping good watch and read.
All right.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Thank you all so much for joining us, Amy and Catherine. I really appreciate your expertise and insight. And we will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Bye.